Guys, I was on mute there for a second. I couldn't hear you all, but I'm with you. I'm sorry I'm a few minutes late here.
Oh, it's
Forgiven.
Everybody was late. Everybody except me and Connie.
Oh, guys, I was on mute there for a second. I couldn't hear you all, but I'm with you. I'm sorry I'm a few minutes late here.
Uh-oh, we got some backlash going on.
Well, we're live now, so
Okay.
that's what you were hearing.
Okay, gotcha.
David, I beat you by seconds.
You guys are funny.
Connie, I like your background.
Thank you.
And Mayor, obviously yours too. Yours is always very nice.
Where?
Connie looks like she's outside, maybe.
I know.
Sun porch.
Sun porch, nice.
Yep.
Andrew's at City Hall.
Which one day we'll be there again. It's in the future. For sure.
David, that's a fascinating piece of artwork behind you. I'm trying to figure it out over your shoulder.
That's Joy's one of her paintings that she brought to the homestead.
There you go.
It looks like a horse race at Keeneland or someplace. A jockey and a horse.
I can't read the name. It's, how the artist kind of scribbled their name, but anyway.
Very nice.
Can you all still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. You told me my microphone wasn't working.
Now we see you.
Thanks,
There's
Stacey.
Miss Clark.
Hello, yes, I'm here.
Hey,
We waited
Stacey.
for you.
Thank you.
Well, let's call this meeting to order. Take it away, Mayor.
Well, actually, I was going to let Stacey and Andrew take it away. And
Let's do it.
let's do it.
Sounds good.
Stacey, you started.
Andrew, do we want to go department by department or just pull up that new request sheet?
You want me to share that right now?
If you have it up, yeah, I can get it if not, but
You want to go department? You tell me, department by department or just new requests?
I think the new request will suffice.
Okay.
New
We've got it all
request.
summarized.
It gives us a good overall view. Now, I did tell some of these department
Yes.
heads, Stacey, that they could go back to advocating for their departments this year. So you may have gotten
Yeah.
more in request.
We sure did.
You wanna zoom? Yeah. You wanna zoom in, Andrew?
Did you?
A little
Okay.
bit, make it a little bigger.
Last year, Connie.
The
and
bottom
David,
right.
We cut them
The
to
bottom right of the spreadsheet, there should be a zoom.
Yeah.
We
Is that
cut them
better?
to it so badly that we even told them not to ask for things. But this year we put them back on a regular kind of footing and said, advocate for your departments and we'll look at it. And if we can do it, we'll consider it. But go ahead. So we're probably going to see a lot more requests than we saw last year.
Yes, and Andrew, it didn't zoom on my end.
You
It still
didn't?
says it's at 100% on the bottom right of the Excel
Listen.
spreadsheet.
Stacy, all I have to do is open it up with my fingers and I can see it.
I
Okay.
zoomed in to 160. It should be.
Oh, on the spreadsheet itself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe.
I'm good. I can see.
hang on.
All right. That works.
Are you all not seeing it zoomed in?
No, I made it big on my own screen.
I can read it.
I
As long
can
as
read it.
everybody
Can you
can read it, I
David?
guess we're okay.
Try one more time and see if it fixes it.
Okay.
How about now?
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
it's
bigger.
bigger.
Okay,
There
good.
you go.
That's better.
So obviously I have not put everything into this spreadsheet yet. So the items you see that are highlighted are just my reminders to finish filling this in as I get through the rest of the budget process. So the general assumptions at the top, we have our CERS rate increases from 24.06 to 26.95% for non-hazardous and 39.58 to 44.33 for hazardous. So We've been talking about that for a while. For this year, that increase is an additional 371,400 across all personnel for all funds. So it's just kind of that general amount. And
We have
then
another
that's
increase next year. We have another increase next year.
yes.
And then does it plateau then?
I think we have one more increase after that.
2024 for non-hazardous and 2025, and maybe 23 and 24. Hazardous chaps out after the increase, after non-hazardous, 1 year after.
I do know the non-hazardous gets up to about 30, I think.
Yeah.
It's 30 point something is where it kind of ends up. And the hazardous probably ends up around 50. Can't remember the exact percentage, but property and liability, obviously, I usually increase those about 5% each year just to allow for an increase in the premium. That's something I can certainly, I don't know if we've shopped around the stop loss type insurances or the carriers. I know our agents are able to do that. We haven't done that in a while, but our claims experience on the property liability side is not great. I deal with those.
Hazardous tops out at 57.6%.
Okay, it is high. Medical, I'm going to review the rates that Nice Lukens, Assured Partners, the rates that they gave me last week are actually lower than the rates we used last year for medical. So when you see the line item budgets, if we look at any of those, you'll actually see medical go down in departments where we aren't adding personnel. Obviously, in departments where we are adding personnel, it's going up, but I still need to review that and make sure we've got everything covered, our clinic cost and all of that. So new vehicles for enterprise. And as you can see, we've broken this down by fund. So everything in this next section is general fund. They've definitely requested lots of new vehicles. Police, the reason it says 28 is not because they're getting 28 all at once, but we approved 8 vehicles for them in this year's budget. We ordered those in July. They are not here yet.
Did you say 8 or 18, Stacy?
8.
Okay.
So we approved 8 in the budget initially, and they would have ordered those back in July, but with all the issues that the plants are having getting parts, we still don't have those vehicles. Most of those were supposed to be Tahoes. In January, we approved an additional 10 vehicles for them to go ahead and kind of get ahead of the curve to try to get those ordered. They ordered a different kind of vehicle than the first time. 5 of those were supposed to be for the hopeful new officers, I think, and then 5 replacements. So we have already approved 18 vehicles via municipal order or this current budget. But they are asking for 10 more to be ordered in July, either late June or July after the budget's approved. So obviously I've got some information on exactly which vehicles they're replacing. I asked Joe to send that to me so that I knew exactly how new we were getting, if that makes sense. I know they were trying to replace vehicles through like 2015 model years, but I'm not sure how new they're going with those. So I can obviously get you some information on at least what years they're replacing or requesting to replace.
It sounds
fire department was requesting.
It sounds like a massive number until we realize we had already done the previous 18, and we intend to hire 5 additional officers. And this, so I assume they'd be they'd be aging out 5.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, and if we think the last 2 years, so year before last in the 2020 budget, I think they asked for 14 vehicles and we gave them 7. This past year, they asked for 16 and initially we gave them 8, but ultimately they've gotten 18. So this year we can kind of say, well, they got their full request. So, at this point, we're kind of making up a little bit, and then of course trying to get everything current. For lease purposes, when we're looking at police vehicles, they've got a useful life of about 4 years. Most of our vehicles are on a 5-year lease, but for pursuit vehicles, because of the wear and tear that they get, they're only on a 4-year lease. So they do have a little bit quicker turnover than our other vehicles would have.
I mean, ideally, we're going to get at some point on a lease program
Yes.
where the number stays the same, but the vehicles continue to rotate out.
Yes. And there is, this was mentioned in Andrew's presentation. We didn't dwell on it, but there was the list of cost saving measures in Andrew's presentation. And one thing Joe has done, and I have not factored it in yet, is we have some leased vehicles that have a really good value right now. They've got a good equity, especially a lot of public works pickup trucks that we could potentially get out of those leases early, sell them, get new vehicles, and have a lower monthly lease payment. So we could get a newer vehicle and pay less per month than the vehicle we're leasing right now. So that is something we're going to look into. And those are not reflected in these numbers. These numbers are strictly replacing city-owned vehicles, not leased vehicles.
Stacy, how does that math work out? Help me understand.
Yeah. So for one thing, when we buy our vehicles, our old vehicles that we were selling. So for example, when we first bought our vehicles brand new, a lot of those we were buying on state contract. So they were much cheaper than what you would get at market. And so we already had a lot of equity built up into them when we went into the lease. And then when we pay down our lease, we only pay down to a certain amount and then we sell it. So if we pay the lease down to $10,000 and they're able to sell the vehicle for 20, we pay off our lease and the city gets the 10,000 equity. So we're then able to take the 10,000 equity, roll that into the next lease. So that vehicle costs less up front. The second thing is the interest rates are lower right now than they were when we entered into a lot of our first leases. So there's the combination of equity being built up and lower interest payment or lower interest rate.
And the fact of how strong the used car market is right now.
That's the big deal, David. The used car market is so incredibly strong that it's turned things upside down, and there's weird opportunities like this.
Okay.
And of course, the whole point of the lease program, we're still not 5 years in, but the whole point of the lease program is once we get to that 4 and 5 year mark, is that we're selling these vehicles for more than we owe at the end of the lease. The equity rolls into the new cars, and eventually that equity is going to keep building. And you actually should see lower lease payments the longer you're in the program than you do in the beginning. So it's definitely one that takes a little time to keep building up that equity and rolling it forward. But we could start seeing, like I said, some of that benefit right now by selling some vehicles earlier than we planned.
So Stacy, just kind of so I'll understand it, when we do a lease, I guess it's a 3-year lease, let's just say.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just say that the annual lease amount $6,000. So over a 3-year period, it's $18,000. And we're paying that down every month. Is that kind of how it works? Is that what you're saying? So we can have an $18,000 commitment over 3 years, but we're paying that down. So when we get halfway there, we're at $9,000, let's just say. I guess I don't know if this is making any sense, but the vehicle could sell for more than
what we owe, essentially.
Okay.
And then we have equity. The city gets all the equity from the leases.
Okay.
So we get the benefit of vehicles selling for more than what we owe. It doesn't go back to enterprise.
Well, I know you, the mayor, and Andrew understand it, probably Connie better than I do, but I mean, that sounds like a great opportunity and a great deal for us.
Yeah, it is. It is. And hopefully, like I said, we can, I can talk to Joe a little more. He's already highlighted which vehicles would be prime to sell right now.
Okay.
And of course, we would not sell them. You know, if he went to market on them and they weren't going to sell enough to cover our lease and then some,
Right.
we wouldn't sell them. We would only sell them if it was going to be to our advantage. So the next thing you'll see is
Yeah.
personnel. I'm sorry.
Stacey, I think the other thing we'd have to be careful about is we'd have to know that we could get the replacement vehicles that we need.
Yes.
Because we've got to keep functioning.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if we fall victim to that, the deal wouldn't make sense.
Right. There definitely would be some timing issues, and it may be something we maybe can't do right now. I don't know, but he's certainly talking about it, and we'll see how it works.
Okay.
Or if it will work for us right now. Personnel, salary adjustments and 3% COLA. You know, we talked a little bit during the interlocal budgets about some requests that those individual departments had made for salary adjustments that were small and reasonable. The biggest adjustments that are in line 16 is the additional $3,600 for police, which gets them to a starting salary of right around $49,491 is what I think it ends up being with incentive. Right now, I put the full amount in. I know we're still discussing everything, but this brings fire department starting pay to equal with police department right now. But obviously, we've not had final conversations about how all of that will go, or if we're going to give each department the same raise right now. But the highest worst case scenario is in this number. This brings our maintenance worker level position starting pay to $15 an hour. We talked about that a little bit at the last meeting. And it brings our CDL driver starting pay to $18 an hour. So all of those adjustments are rolled into this.
How many people do we have below that $15 and $18 level for their position? Was it very many?
Let me look at my salary spreadsheet. It's obviously mainly public works and sanitation departments, with a couple sprinkled in recycling and cemetery. So let me see how many are actually below that right now. Sanitation has a lot more turnover than public works does. So I know most of them are there. So let me go at the bottom of my salary spreadsheet just a minute. Let's see. So in public works, there's about 14 right now.
Wow.
That are either below 18 or below 15, depending on which scenario it is.
Right.
Well, there's about 14 people who would be adjusted. And then let's see. For sanitation, for drivers that are actually below that rate right now, 8 positions that are below it for CDL and below the 18. And about 6 positions that are below the $15 in sanitation for the workers.
The surprising number. It's high to me. I don't know what you all expected, but that's a high number to me. That make less.
3, Mayor, is that what you're saying?
The number of people that we have that will be affected by this surprises me.
It's a lot.
We're really underpaid out there. If we believe in this $15 an hour minimum for labor and $18 for CDLs.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to be fair.
Right. Yes, it is a lot.
It's a fair number of employees. but we felt pretty strong about it when we first looked at Andrew's presentation and wanted to. So we built in what we suggested in the presentation.
Yes. And then there's a couple, like we mentioned, the other small adjustments for the interlocals that were brought up. Fire is requesting an increase for their admin because I believe she's not paid on par with the police admin, and the experience is very close, like within a year of each other. But for some reason, one got hired in at a lower rate. Not sure why. So they have requested about a $4,200 increase for their admin. And then there's some other adjustments that may come up that we talk about, but for now, those are the biggies as far as big sweeping department-wide changes: fire, police, and public works and sanitation. So now sanitation's not in this number, it's down in its own fund, but. And then you can see, of course, the general fund personnel requests below that we've been talking about. 5 police officers. We'll talk about the part-time here in a second. There is a request to change the second VOCA advocate to full-time. We are applying for that funding in the grant to make that position full-time. But the question is, police department would like to have her full-time no matter what, whether the VOCA grant will fund it or not. So, does council, is that something you all would like to see happen, would be for that second position to be full-time, whether we get the grant funding or not. So line 19 is what it would cost for the city to pick that up. Additional benefits, additional hours, if the grant doesn't come through. We won't know about the grant until September. We apply in May, but we won't hear about the funding until September because it's on a federal fiscal year, which starts in October. Fire, in addition to the 5 fire, I'm sorry.
On the VOCA,
Yeah.
had the conversation pretty much been, or at least some of our initial understandings were that if we started those programs and showed success, that there was a high likelihood that they would receive continued funding of that type.
Yeah. Yes, and we've been very successful. The grant looked a little different this last year with COVID. We still received a similar amount, but they waived the match requirement. But our grant amount didn't change, so what the city had to pay really didn't change because our match, we had to pick up, the personnel cost anyway. So I know this past year they waived the match, but so I'm not sure.
Stacey, if we do this, this will make us have 2 full-time?
Yes.
Okay.
And they're also looking at another grant to provide a couple of additional officers in addition to the 5. That would be kind of creating I think it's some sort of victims unit. I'd have to go back and look at the exact detail, but it's in their memo. So they're really trying to build up the victim services area of the police department.
We're going to win this. We're going to win this problem with crime and drugs through addressing social things. It's going to be through the Angel program. I think there's real value to that program, and I think the public recognizes it.
I agree, Mayor. I do. 100%.
And the good thing with this VOCA, our current full-time victims advocate, she's 80% on grant. That means she can spend 20% of her time doing off-grant duties, which is a lot of our Angel program. The drugs are, trying to refer might be needing help with seeking treatment and such. Right now, this is structured so that our second victims advocate is only 50% on grant. So she spends 50% of her time strictly with victim services, but the other 50% the city pays for, and she can spend that with the Angel program, helping people seek treatment, rehabilitation, et cetera. So we get both with this. So like I said, they just would like to see that position full-time, whether or not we get the grant funding for it.
Okay.
In addition to the 5 firefighters that we've talked about a little bit, they have also requested a battalion chief of training. They have some information in their memo about that, and I can share those memos with you all after this meeting so that you can read the text from the departments that provide that. In Public Works, I believe we had this in the presentation as well, but has requested 2 maintenance workers and 2 maintenance or CDL level drivers. They call them maintenance drivers, but they're CDL drivers. So that's all of the general fund personnel request right now.
Okay. And again, today we're in my mind, we're in the mode of learning the request.
Yes.
And I don't think we have to consider them all and debate them all today, because you're going to forward us additional information to
Yes.
some.
Okay.
This is kind of laying the groundwork for what they're looking for.
Okay.
And then after obviously this is the biggest piece of it. The vehicle replacements, the salary adjustments, COLA, personnel, this is obviously the largest chunk of our request. 2.9 million in change that Andrew just highlighted for the personnel adjustments.
Hey, Stacy, just a point of clarification, in the 1.3 million there at the top, did you say it was 3,600 for police and 3,600 for fire?
That actually includes the additional raise for fire that would make their starting pay equal with police. So it's about, let me think, it's about 6,900 for fire. Again, there was, I think that's maybe what we had in the presentation initially, so I put that in here, but I know there's more discussion to be had about timing and how all that may play out. But for now, it's all in there.
Okay, no, that's fine. Yeah.
And again, none of this is final. This is all just requested. Remember, this is what the department's requested.
Gotcha.
This does not mean this is what we approve. It's what the department's requested.
And you're going to send us this by email?
Yes,
and
I absolutely will send you this.
that'd be good. And what their memos? Thank you. That'd be awesome. Okay. I'm good.
Beyond this, for the general fund, if you want to scroll down a little more, Andrew, we've got capital request. Some of them I had time to run through and add up their line item request if they had it in their memo. The rest I haven't gone back to the spreadsheets, so that's why those are highlighted. But we'd already looked at building inspection. They really didn't have any major changes. Police department had quite a few line item increases. You'll see justification for those when I send the memo. It'd be 5,000 here, 10,000 there. I think they had like 19,000 in uniforms, but you'll see.
Bear in mind that some of those are line item increases over last year's decreases. So
yes,
it might be worth having 2 years of comparison just for that.
Yeah.
That reason.
And in the actual budget document, you'll recall we always have 4 years of actual compared to the budget request. So you will be able to see their past spending versus what the last year or two have been. They put in 8,000. They want to do some work on their CIS office. I don't know, to gain a little more space or rework it. They put 8,000 in the line item budget, but their capital project form said 8 to 15. So when we meet with the police department during their meeting, we'll firm up exactly how much they're asking for there. And then new vehicles always come with a little extra equipment. So the MDTs and the radios, we don't include those in the lease. So they do buy those separately.
So does those cover the 28 vehicles, the 93,000?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that will cover all the vehicles that are already on order, plus as of right now, the 10 additional they've requested.
Okay.
Fire department, again, you see the line item increases and you'll see in their memo what those line items are exactly. And then they've got some capital requests. Several of these, I know the exhaust removal system, training center improvements, a lot of those are repeats. I know I've seen at least a couple of those before. And then they keep putting, I think the Station 4 needs assessment. They've requested that for the last 3 or 4 years.
Where's Station 4 located?
Well, the needs assessment of where it would be.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, the new one. Gotcha.
Yeah, no,
I was like, I
Future-
don't think that-
future
okay, gotcha.
potential.
You
All
were
right.
thinking exactly right, Connie.
All righty.
Stace, what about the
And-
vehicle exhaust system? I thought I feel like we have exhaust system. Maybe I'm not thinking the right thing. Is that what connects to the exhaust of the trucks when they drive off? It releases.
I think this is for the buildings, but I'll need to go back and look. I think this is for the stations themselves. It is something that
That's
goes into
where-
the stations.
When they park the vehicle in the garage and they have to do maintenance on it, they have to hook it up to that exhaust system. It's my understanding of what that is.
Okay.
I could be wrong. It's those, the big pipes that come down out of the ceiling that hook it up to the exhaust, and when they're doing their, drainings and all of the little upkeep things that they have to do undercover, they have to have that exhaust removal system. And I think they all the stations have it, but they also wear out after time,
Yeah, I remember purchasing some. I was just curious, how many this was, and just some of the detail behind it.
I can pull it up if you want me to.
Well, you don't have to do it this moment, but just whenever.
I've got their memo pulled up.
Okay.
Just takes me a second.
When you get to see their memos, both police and fire are exceptionally well done. And
Yes.
they'll have a paragraph to explain every line item that they're requesting. So you really get a good idea of what they're asking for as when you get that information.
Okay.
And it does say, it says this will allow us to upgrade our current air operated system to a magnetic system. It's designed based on vehicle exhaust systems used by automotive manufacturers today. Their current system is not compatible with exhaust diameters and temperatures. Magnetic system is more reliable. And then, of course, they talk about the concern in the fire service in recent years and the increase in diagnosis and risk of cancer, and wanting to obviously alleviate any environmental concerns that may be as they're working on those vehicles. So
Listen, safety is the top priority, no doubt, no question about it. Would this be for all 3 locations, or does it say?
it did not say specifically, but I would assume that it would replace hopefully all of the systems, but I can't click in that since it's you, Andrew, but I'll update with a note in my form to ask Eric about that.
Okay. And then as far as the fitness equipment, kind of the same thing. Is this replacing equipment at all 3 locations, or, what's the?
Let me put that.
It says
note.
upgrade and purchase additional.
And I did put which locations on my notes, so we'll remember to ask them about that at our meetings next week.
And then at
If
Station
it's
1, is that something that would be shared with EMS? If it involves Station
I'm not
1?
sure necessarily. Obviously, the general building expenses, I know we do split, but it seems like they kind of have separate quarters in that building. So I'm not sure if they both utilize the fitness room or if those, so I'm not sure. I'd have to ask.
Good question. We should ask.
I don't know myself.
I'll make a note. All right. Public Works, pretty self-explanatory. I know the loader, the chipper, the mower, and the leaf vac, I think they've asked for 2 years in a row now. Because when I went to update this spreadsheet, all of those were already on there, just changed the price slightly. So the street sweeper is a new request that wasn't there last year. And that's obviously joint with stormwater. So there's some debate. We could put this under Public Works, or it could be under stormwater, because it does serve that purpose for obviously keeping those things out of our storm drains.
Yeah.
And it will have a back attachment, is my understanding, I believe, is what Bruin said in his memo.
So you think the stormwater management fee could pick up the tab for this?
I believe it could certainly help if we had it in place in time, depending on how quickly we need one. But it says it has a, go ahead.
If we did a stormwater management fee, I mean, they want a vac truck. And I don't know that a leaf vac can function as a vac truck.
Well, I think this is the street sweeper, Andrew.
Okay,
And it
sorry.
says the larger sweeper also has a suction hose attached, which would help clean stormwater inlets and pipes that are clogged with debris and road dirt.
That's what I was getting at, is that there are machines that will do it all.
Yes. So it seems like this.
Right.
This may be a different type of street sweeper than we've purchased in the past, since they're doing it in conjunction with the city engineer's office.
At that price, it seems like it might be more sophisticated than some of the ones we purchased in the past.
Yeah.
And I do recall purchasing, multiple street sweepers in the past. Of course, I've been around a long time. You just kind of lose track of time.
Yes.
But I'd be curious to know how many we have in operation, and are we going to surplus any, or kind of what our inventory. Listen, I'm a big advocate for street sweeping. You all know that.
We have one working street sweeper.
That's it.
Yep.
Wow.
And have for many years. We have a second one, but it hasn't been operational.
Yeah, and David, it works every day. It's up and down, but it's up and down Broadway. It's up and Main Street. I mean, it is constantly used. And it is, in fact, a requirement of our stormwater permit. Yeah. So I think that is a nice angle. We need to buy it in such a way that the county can buy half of it with us. If we're sharing stormwater permitting, is that a reach?
It's somewhat of a reach, because at this point we've agreed to share administrative costs, but to keep our maintenance costs separate. Isn't that correct, Stacy?
Yes, that's correct.
So they wouldn't pay for half of that. Now, that doesn't mean that we couldn't get them to agree to it, but under the current arrangement, no.
Okay, well, it's not.
Well, guys, with the stormwater utility fee, I'll go back to what David was asking. That has a lot to do with stormwater.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
believe it's something that would pay for it if we had that. To answer David's question is what I think.
Yes, absolutely. If we had the utility fee right now, it could pay for that truck.
Okay.
Well, even if general fund paid for it while we were in the process of getting our stormwater utility fee up, we could be paid back. The general fund could.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that out loud.
Yeah, that's something we could talk about with I'll definitely have to ask Andrew and Devin on that. I know with the 911 fee, we made sure we didn't pay for anything retroactively, but we can see what we're allowed to do. So
we have with sanitation in the past.
It's been a while since I've been to those meetings and those classes for stormwater, but all they've done is increased and gotten better. But that was something that was said that you could get a loan to do those things and then pay it back. So I think it is something worth looking into.
I think that you and David are correct. This is the type of expense that would fit perfectly under a stormwater utility arrangement. And it would that is when we talk about relieving some of the burden on the general fund. This is a prime example.
Yeah, It is a good chunk.
The next city engineer, I pulled up his spreadsheet so I can give you a little detail on that. The project engineering, that's things like parking lot engineering, street light engineering, connector road study, Bourbon Street over by the police department. I know he's mentioned to us that there's some concern with the pipes there being old and needing replacement. The land improvements, I'm gonna have to make a note. That's something I'm gonna have to ask Eddie about. He put 25,000 in the land and land improvements account, but did not say what it was for.
Probably generally what they, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Probably generally what they did over there in UCO Inn. you know, some of the
Possibly.
improvements they did over there and
Yeah.
things like that.
Um,
But definitely
Parking
ask.
lot projects, he's got Main Street behind Misbehaving, the KU parking lot at Clinton, KU grass field across from local feed. So he's included a little bit of money for some of those parking lot projects that we've talked about. And then the road projects that he has in there. Let me look at that. Where's that? I think he had some money in there. I'm not sure. He put Old Oxford widening. Obviously, the money he's got in here is not enough. But he's got a little bit in this fiscal year, maybe in hopes that that project will get started near the end of the year. And he's got a little bit in here for Lexus Way extension. Again, probably expecting or hoping a little bit of the engineering to possibly get done if we can in this fiscal year, because he has a 5-year plan and the numbers obviously jump quite a bit in the years following. So he may be trying to set aside for a little bit of engineering expense for those projects. And he also had, that's one I've got to ask him about. He had a little bit. Okay, that's it. Those are the 2 road projects. So
Well,
I think
this is just a side question. Is any of this could fall under stormwater utility?
I don't know about that.
Just ask that question, or I can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Hey.
I don't know.
Just
You know, I will say that a lot of the issues that we have going on Old Oxford are stormwater related. It's washout. It's washout of the road. So I actually had that conversation with Eddie. There are portions of projects like that you could allocate to stormwater. So I don't know what portion that is, but I do believe that that kind of thing is possible.
Yeah.
Well,
if we were installing pipe.
I just think it's a good argument or support of what we want to do, is that'll help with that.
Yes.
Okay.
And Stacy, for
Yes.
the council members' benefit, on the parking lot projects, we had so much good momentum going down on Water Street. We were actively searching for parking and trying to implement solutions, and we had to stop. Everybody had to stop everything. But I'm pretty excited about being able to go ahead and gravel that lot, roller it enough with a surface that is not paved, but can actually be striped. And I think it's the right signal for us to, if we can, go back and be doing some of those parking projects on Water Street and behind Main Street. Just a great message for us to be sending.
The next section is highlighted. I've got to get with the county and Parks and Rec and P&Z and request. They have not sent me their numbers, so I need to remind them that I need those. So.
Can I ask a quick question, kind of related to the city engineer?
Mm-hmm.
At one, I know this is something we've talked about, but I don't know exactly where we stand on it. But we put money in for some matching sidewalk repair or replacement. Would that be something under Eddie's line items that could be added, or could that be, Mayor, I guess, kind of asking for your thoughts too? There were 2 different times I know of that we did that, and we felt like it was first time was extremely successful. So successful, we did it again, and I feel like all the funds got utilized. And I know that we're continuing to have sidewalk issues, throughout Georgetown. What are your thoughts?
Devin is actually going to give you all the beginnings of a sidewalk improvement program presentation. That's a mouthful on Monday.
On Monday? Ironically, okay.
We've been having this conversation, David, and Devin's got, you're going to see a couple of different approaches where we can either make a common vendor available to people at a unit basis, or we can fund part of it. We're talking about giving them an option to have their sidewalks ground if they're within a certain dimensional variance.
I like that.
Master contract for that.
Okay.
give people a lower unit price. So Devin's done a deep dive on it, and we're ready to report to you.
Great.
Yeah.
That's wonderful news.
What I had asked Devin to do was to sort of bifurcate the concept into here are what our sort of administrative options are in terms of how we might tackle it, and then the second part of it be whether and to what extent we contribute financially to that. But to the extent that you all want to talk about that now, we can. I just didn't want to.
No, I
didn't want to bring you all too much at once.
No, this is excellent news. I appreciate that. No, the way we did it in the past is, I recall, could be a little off here, but I think we allocated like $50,000 in our budget, and we matched, whatever the homeowner was willing to do. So,
and yes,
more business.
If we choose to do that again, then certainly that's something we would probably put under the city engineer's supervision and budget for him to help monitor, I would think.
So there's several ways to come at it, David, and we're also acutely aware that we know about our sidewalk issues and we've inventoried them. And if we don't take action to remedy those, we're negligent. So we've got a responsibility to do something.
Well, I appreciate you having her do that. That's excellent.
Well, I'll give that credit to Andrew that they're doing good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll just turn right back around and give it to Devin. So,
well, thanks to all of you. I know that.
The 911 fund, we mainly talked about this at our last meeting when we went over interlocals, but I do want to mention here and kind of hop back up for a second to police, because I think I didn't talk about it too much, but both police and dispatch, as you know, they've had a lot of vacancies over the last year. And as those vacancies have developed, they had requested some part-time help to help fill in the gaps as they were working to get their positions filled and get new employees. So obviously the new employees haven't happened yet, but they are still working towards filling vacancies. So that's something they have asked to keep. Police has asked to keep the 2 part-time police officers that they've been able to fund through vacancies. Because we kept telling them, once your vacancies are full, you've got to go to council to ask for the funding because you're funding this through vacancies. And then the same thing with dispatch, again, once your vacancies are filled. So they have asked for those positions to become permanent. 2 part-time police officers, 2 part-time dispatchers. So, that's something it's in addition to the other new positions that we've talked about. So I don't know what your all's feelings are on that. I know in police, I might need to pull up the memo. I know one of the part-time officers monitors and helps maintain the evidence room. I would have to look and see where the other one is.
For council members' benefit, some departments are more aggressive than others about calculating and wanting us to recognize vacancy rates. And if they see a little bit of money in their budget that would come from a position being vacant for a period of time, they'll propose using that for a part-time person. And it seems very reasonable. And it is reasonable. But what you have to watch for in the future is once you hire that part-time person, there's an expectation that you continue to do so. And while it may be paid for in this year's budget, the year the request was made, it might be paid for by a vacancy savings. It will not be in the future. And that's part of well, I can pay for this part-time person with my vacancy rate. Yes, you can, 1 year. But from going forward, then it's an additional expense.
Mayor, I would say this, at least from my perspective, as it relates to 911 and dispatch. I would lean heavily on your opinion and Andrew's opinion, Stacy's opinion, as in this particular department. It's hard for us to kind of see that. That's not a real visible department. unlike the police, which I think the whole community is aware that there's a shortfall there, and we can see it. Their situation happened today. They're just it's more known. It's easier. It's more tangible, I guess. So anyway, I would say I'm going to probably follow your lead on what you think is best in that particular department.
Okay. I'm just making sure we're all aware of what these maneuverings mean at different.
Yeah.
I will tell you in this case that what Brian said to us, and Stacy, you tell me if you think I got any part of this wrong, but what Brian said to us was he's having difficulty finding qualified full-time dispatchers. And these two part-timers are dispatchers, at least one of them is a dispatcher elsewhere. And that's sort of helping bridge that gap till he could get more full-time qualified dispatchers. That's not necessarily a good reasoning to keep those folks, but it helps to explain why he's asking for that.
Well, actually, it's very situational, and it's situational enough to maybe just warrant it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does still have several vacancies. He still has 3 or 4 vacancies. Of course, we're talking about adding more positions next year because that's what the 911 fee was intended to do. But he still has vacancies to fill right now. So I don't think there's any hesitation with, do we keep these part-time positions while they're dealing with these vacancies and getting these positions filled? It just becomes that, do we make them permanent? And I'm glad you reminded me of that, Andrew, because we talked about that again with Brian or the other day, was if they are working in a CERS position elsewhere, we do have to contribute to their retirement.
This is a difficult job. It takes some real training and a different kind of person and personality to be able to do what they do. We really don't get it. But just the training and just the assessment and everything for them to even be considered.
Yeah.
So, I'm down for the part-time ones for right now. What, Andrew?
Not only is it hard to find those people, it's hard to keep them. Not just because they go greener pastures, but a lot of them realize they can't do it. It's not for them, or
right. Well, that's why they're doing that assessment, but still, they really probably don't know what they're getting into. But, you already have trained people that work at a full-time 911 center that's doing part-time over here. You don't have to worry about training them while they're looking for good people to.
Yeah.
And as far as losing them, they can't be salary anymore. So it would have to be what you said. It's just not for them.
And for police, I did go back and look. One part-time officer is in the evidence room, and it said the other one is on patrol right now. So,
and that really worked our benefit because we got to bring back one of our retired officers to run the evidence room, who was very well qualified and was kind of forced into retirement by some changes in the retirement system, and was able to come back to work with us.
Good deal.
I like it.
So, like I said, we talked about 911 fund a lot when we talked about our interlocals the other day. So if we'll come down to environmental services, Andrew. So this is the one that includes sanitation, recycling, and stormwater, even though stormwater is still completely funded by the general fund. We put it in environmental services. Again, this is where we see the biggest impact. One of the biggest impacts in the raises for CDL and maintenance workers will obviously greatly affect the sanitation department. Most of their employees are newer than public works. It's kind of like you work at sanitation. It's almost like you get promoted to public works, even though sometimes it's a lateral move, but it's just a different type of job. So sanitation seems to hold the vacancies, while public works doesn't have very many. He's put off buying a garbage truck for the last year or two. So he has actually requested a rear loading and an automated And one thing I'll have to look at, and I will get back to you and email you about, is how our sanitation fund balance is looking, because we know in a normal year or in a good year, sanitation floats our recycling center. It covers the deficit for us. As we've mentioned before, in years where we buy garbage trucks, usually that budget year is in the negative. So I'm definitely going to have to look at that. And then we've got these salary adjustments as well, which is also going to crunch it even tighter. So we need to continue to have those conversations about the sanitation budget, especially where it's having to cover for recycling. If we make these salary adjustments, it will crunch that budget even tighter.
Wow.
And Stacy, we're just to let the council members know, I may have mentioned it before. We're working on the judge and I are working on maybe a different plan for a recycling drop-off center. We've got a joint city county one right now. They're on Paris Pike, but we're having to jointly fund that thing a lot of money each year. It operates at a severe deficit. So where we're getting ready to issue another RFP about curbside recycling services available in Georgetown. We're also talking with Adam Rumpke at his new facility there on West Houston Way about them becoming a new location for a drop-off center. And maybe we could close our drop-off center and eliminate that expense. We're not quite there yet, but something the judge and I would really like to get done is eliminate the drop-off center expense, have that at the new place on West Houston Way, and then us offer curbside recycling on a private basis to our citizens.
I like that, Mayor.
Me too, Mayor. Sounds good.
Like I said, we talked about recycling when we talked about the interlocals, not much there, just the salary adjustments that we talked about previously. Stormwater, we kind of mentioned, I think he had the Bourbon Street engineering in here as well. And then as you'll see, he requested some funding for some, I won't say small, they're not small stormwater projects, but Bourbon Street, as he has mentioned, he would like to see done. Bradshaw Dam, continuing the cleaning of the pipes and camera work. And then he also had a project on there for Pocahontas. I'm not sure what that one entails. It just says Pocahontas Trail storm sewer replacement. So there are probably some pipes that need to be replaced in Pocahontas, just like there are at Bourbon Street. So,
well, the issue the issue in Pocahontas is there just isn't any. there isn't
there
any
what?
stormwater. There just isn't any stormwater infrastructure.
Okay.
It's causing problems, and I think that
Very
having
little.
some stormwater mitigation efforts in that is part of the project.
And I know again, we've talked about the stormwater utility and what that can do for us in this area. We've obviously been putting off projects for at least the last couple of years for sure, in our tighter budget years and possibly even a little bit longer. But definitely conversations we can have about stormwater utility. If we had that, we would be able to fund these projects a lot easier.
Go back up to we kind of skipped over the garbage truck.
Oh,
Stacey,
sorry.
you and I were talking before this about the idea of there's a possibility that things like garbage trucks and maybe even some of the other vehicles that we talked about could be done on the enterprise program. I don't how remote that possibility is. I don't know.
Yeah, someone had talked to Bruin about it, and he was going to talk with our enterprise representative, our account manager. So we just need to follow up with the enterprise and see if that's a possibility. I do know with garbage trucks several years ago, it wasn't enterprise, it was a different company, but they had similar lease programs where you lease the vehicle. They resell them on the commercial market. You make a profit, you lease a new one. Similar to what we're doing with enterprise with our smaller fleet vehicles. So it's just, you just got to make sure you're getting the right type of garbage truck that the commercial sector wants.
But even if we're even if we're not able to get something like that through enterprise, I mean, cities and counties have been funding large equipment purchases through leases for decades. I mean, it's the only way some small counties can afford things like that. I know that that's not something that we normally do, but I'm going to encourage that we keep that open as an option. I mean, KLC has had in the past, at least, lease programs where it's more in the nature of basically more in the nature of a debt rather than you're going to lease it from
It's literally a debt instrument.
Yeah.
It's a debt instrument. That's right.
What?
And we had a bank loan when I first started for police vehicles. We've obviously since paid that off, but it was literally a bank loan at a local bank to spread that cost out over a few years. And obviously these garbage truck purchases are quite large. So finding some sort of financing option may be something we want to consider to keep that fund balanced.
And in general, we talked in the presentation we gave about the increases that the 5-year plan, the increases that we expect to see in our budget from fixing our personnel issues primarily. But we kind of glossed over, long-term, large capital needs. And I think that in general, we're going to have to think more about the idea of how those things get financed rather than how those things get purchased. Like, we've got $510,000 in 1 year's budget for trucks that we really need, but we could budget that for 5 years of debt service instead. It might make that more realistic of a purchase. There's lots more things that we could think about in those terms.
Yeah, for David, for you and Connie, from a business point of view, that would be like instead of expensing something out in 1 year on your income statement, you'd capitalize it and expense it over a number of years in depreciation. So just a different way of dealing with an expense.
Well, definitely something to look at.
Absolutely.
And I'm pretty certain that 500,000 under stormwater projects would fit under a stormwater utility.
I'm pretty sure you're correct about that, Mayor.
Right.
Pretty sure about that one.
Mm-hmm.
And then okay.
And then
we've got I think for the finance committee to kind of give us some direction on. I think we've got Strand's presentation pretty well narrowed down, don't we, Andrew?
Yeah, it's coming up in the 2nd April meeting.
Okay, so
we're gonna meet with them. We're actually gonna do a dry run of the presentation next week, and then we'll help them kind of compress it even a little bit more. But yeah, they're expected to hear from them about what it looks like and what our options are, and they're going to ask us to give them a path forward.
So that conversation is coming back to the council right away.
Okay.
For the education and for council to make the decision of 1 or 2 methodologies.
Okay.
Once we make that decision as a council, they'll go away and do 3 or 4 more months of work before they bring us back to something else.
Mary, you allowed me to attend one of the meetings, I guess, with Strand. It was a kind of a lengthy meeting. And as I recall, they said that 80% of the communities, I think roughly 80%, chose one method, whereas about 20% chose the other method. Is that still, do you all think that's still kind of an accurate?
I think that's right, David. I think that, I don't like to be overly restrictive on those things, but engineers like certainty.
Yeah.
And sometimes communities like certainty. And I think the reason that a lot of communities go with that is it's the one method that has been tested in the courts. And therefore it's the method that they go, you're safe with this.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it's necessarily the only legitimate method or that it's the right method. So I want us to keep our minds open to what all the possibilities are.
Sure.
But you're right. I think the majority of the communities pick that. It's also a very simple method. There's no question about that. So.
Okay.
Hey, Stacy,
Yes.
sorry.
Um,
Your conversation.
yes, cemetery, we talked about mainly during our interlocals, so we were kind of skimming over the interlocals today because we talked about them at the last meeting. So again, we talked about the additional personnel and a couple small capital requests, but it's kind of recapped there. And then I think there may have been a couple of general fund or general government budget items that we kind of glossed over, sped past, but I think I put my budgeting software request in there, and I think Megan had an employee handbook revision in there. But those were kind of.
You've been asking for the update on that financial software for.
Yes.
You've been asking for about as long as the fire department asked for the boat. That became a running annual joke for me and Stacy about the fire department's boat request. And
On line number 28, HR pay, is that college internship?
Yeah, so she has requested to have a little bit of help. I think the county may do this, that they do have some interns from the college that come over and help out with some administrative tasks. And obviously we've got a lot on our plate, so she's requested to possibly be able to pay some Georgetown College intern.
I like that.
They've got an intern, a Georgetown College intern over at the courthouse, and interns like running their Instagram account and their Facebook stuff, and I think been a real help in various ways.
Oh, definitely.
Arlene's been saying, I want one.
I think we'd all like one.
Yeah, I mean, the
I'd like
difference
to
is
have one.
they work when you pay them. It doesn't work so great when you don't.
I know.
Yeah, I did have a free one several years ago, and it was wonderful because it was when I was converting to my new accounting system, and he took my fixed asset spreadsheet and ran with it. So yeah, they can definitely be helpful on projects or the day-to-day administrative tasks that get out of hand.
Well, we got our work cut out for us, don't we?
Yeah.
It's a lot of requests.
Stacey,
It's a big number.
Go ahead.
Was Devin an intern with us for a while?
No.
Okay.
Did we go over cemetery or did I just zone out?
I think I've mentioned it briefly, but we went over all the interlocals at our previous meeting,
that's right.
So we weren't really
That's right. We did.
focusing on them today.
So, but
I
back
did
to
highlight it.
equipment operator and maintenance worker.
Yeah, David wasn't
Yes.
here. So
Oh, okay. So cemetery, there's a couple things going on. Right now we have our sexton and one equipment operator. And we have, I believe, 2 essentially full-time temporary workers. They're working 40 hours a week. We're paying them through the temp agency with whatever markup they charge. So, but right now we had our equipment operator was on medical leave for a little while. I don't know I think he still may be. So for example, Gene cannot leave the Hamilton Riker employees alone at the cemetery. He has to be there to supervise them or they can't work. So we're in a position where, at least right now, he can't take vacation and still have somebody there working. And yes, that's a current situation, but in general, he needs the help anyway. He said, cemetery used to have 5 employees, and they're down to 2. And, there is potential talk in the future of us having to possibly help with upkeep of additional cemeteries that may come under the city's supervision. And thinking about continuity and succession at the cemetery. Having someone that he can train that could potentially be the sexton in the future. Right now, he doesn't have that. Really, for the full-time employees, for the most part, we would be picking up benefits. We're already paying for them mostly through a temp agency. We're paying for 40 hours a week already. We're not paying the benefits.
So the net effect won't be what I'm seeing there quite. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. And I believe the professional services, let me pull it up and tell you what it reduced.
Yeah, that should be a big offset on professional services.
We reduced, let's see. We reduced professional services by about 65,880. We didn't completely take it away because he still needs some seasonal help in the summer just for mowing and landscaping, but it wouldn't be year-round help. It wouldn't be year-round full-time help like he hires right now from the tip agency. It would just be a little bit of part-time seasonal help in the spring and summer months to get things looking good. So,
Okay.
Yeah,
and then of course, obviously anything in cemetery is split with the county.
yeah, cemetery county pays half of all this, and we haven't budgeted for it, but we are probably going to have to take over Maple Grove Cemetery sometime in the next year or two, whenever we can finalize that transaction. It needs to be under our control. And you know, a lot of folks don't know that Gene, our current sexton, father was the sexton forever and ever and ever. And now Gene is maybe getting to the end of retirement, and we've had it pretty good. We've had multi-generations of leadership, but we don't have an heir apparent now. And we feel like we need to start thinking about that.
Good point, Mayor. No, I'm good with what we're proposing here. I think in terms of the cemetery, I think it's been a while since we've had a rate increase. I think that's something that we need to definitely consider and implement.
Gene has actually sent us
Yes.
some information on, he agrees.
Okay.
And should I pull that up, Stacy?
If you want to, he did send us some proposed rates. Not for lot sales, but for the services, for the interments and cremations and such. Not cremations.
Why not the lot sales then? Why would that not be? Or
I don't know. He didn't bring that one up, I don't think. We can pull it up, Andrew. And
I would think,
what he had
I
on there.
can't remember the last time we did it. I mean, I bet it's been 10 years ago.
But he definitely had the services as an increase. He has what some other cities have. Most cities charge a higher rate if you come in the gate after a certain time. So he's got some notes in there as well.
Okay. Well, I would ask
So
that
the top one there is our current rate, the 800 and the 950. That's our current
okay.
rate.
I mean, I'm good with you all making a recommendation to us, but I think it needs to include the plots as well.
And then there's his recommendation at the bottom.
Well, why don't we put this in a position where it's got some more background or data, and think about bringing it to the council.
Sure,
I think we've already talked with you all about the fact that we do have some space concerns at the cemetery that we're having to work through. And in particular, the pace at which pauper burials are occurring.
Mhm.
So I think we mentioned that we've reached out to Branstetter and Carroll and going to have some professional help on which direction we point the cemetery. But we know we need to do something there. Stacy, we did brush over the interlopers and we covered them pretty well last time.
Yeah.
But I do know that Judge Covington has expressed concern to me about the size of Parks and Rec's request and their capital request. And I promised him that he and I would get together early next week and go through those. And
we got to get the numbers first.
Yeah, I don't even have.
We don't have them.
well, that's not acceptable.
No.
Stacy, you might reach out to.
I will. I'll reach out to Kim and Joe at P&Z too.
Okay.
So to get both of theirs.
But what Judge Covington said, we might have some sticker shock, and we're gonna have to,
Okay,
he's already asked me to talk about it.
okay.
So, yeah,
I'll get the judge's numbers as well. For
Did we
his
get-
departments.
did we get ambulances?
No,
EMS?
no, I've got to, as I said, I have to ask. They don't always send them automatically.
and I do know, Judge told me some time ago that the ambulance service did intend to buy a new ambulance.
Yeah.
And that's probably $250,000.
That for the whole thing or just our half?
No, that's the whole thing, and we're going to half of it.
A lot of big numbers this year.
Oh, Connie, great big numbers, aren't they? And a lot of them. But I think this gives us a pretty good base understanding, at least of and then I think you'll really get value out of their budget memos that flesh out what was just a row of numbers on a spreadsheet.
Okay.
Then I guess we'll be working on this process in several different directions. We're going to start predicting revenue, and then we end up with every year we end up with the gap, and then we work to shrink that gap, and hopefully shrink it to zero.
We got our work cut out for us, but we can do it. We got a good team.
Yeah. Stacy, were there other things you wanted to cover today?
No, that was it. Like you mentioned, the next thing, really, the big one for me will be working on revenue estimates. And my hope is that by the end of next week, I can send you or start sending you what our normal budget document looks like. It may not be formatted perfectly like it always is, but it should at least have the bottom line where we can start to see where we're at.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
do I need to make the call, or will the county finance officer share with you their revenue projections?
Michelle will send them to me. She'll send me their stuff. I just need to email her and ask her.
I just like to know what they're thinking, since they have to go a little bit in front of us.
Yes. No, well, the revenue, I'll take that back. The revenue, I'll ask her for it. If she doesn't send it, I'll let you know. But if she's willing to share her revenue estimates,
I just,
I'll share 'em.
it doesn't make any sense for the city and the county to be miles apart on
Right.
some payroll tax.
Yes.
There's a red flag if we're far apart. So that's all I'm wanting to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
So will there be another meeting? I guess, how will we proceed after this? You're going to send us some additional, the information with a little bit of detail. And then,
We have another meeting in 2 weeks on April 23rd. That one will be back to the regular 9:30 time. And so like I said, I hope by the end of next week or the first of that week before the meeting to give you that budget document that will have some revenue estimates and have everything compiled into one spreadsheet so you can see more of the bottom line. And you'll have a few days to kind of look at it and chew on it before our next meeting
okay.
and see where we're at.
What
And then-
will the finance committee's role be then, I guess, at the next meeting? Now that we've seen all the requested items, I guess I'm asking maybe the mayor or you, Stacy, what do you want us to do?
Between now and then, we will also have met with all of the departments and discussed their requests. So Stacy and I talked about, we may download with the mayor before then or after then or both. And then when we come back to you in 2 weeks, it's possible that we have updates on how we've narrowed things down, or we may have just knocked some things out already. I don't know. But
Yeah, I kind of sense that we wanted you all to see all the requests. I think we should work jointly on the revenue, and we'll have a chance to do that because we'll study some of the big revenue line items for a while and have several conversations about them, and maybe change them a little bit through our conversations. But I think we probably need to take a stab at what we're going to recommend as the administration from that list you just saw.
Right.
What we think is that we can defend and make a recommendation to you and Connie.
Okay.
And I think that'll be on that should be on our task list.
Okay.
And have it in 2 weeks,
Uh,
hopefully.
we can be close. 2 weeks, we can have.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, I'm
let's
hoping
get
to have
started.
you the budget document before the meeting on what we're looking at by then. It depends on how quickly, obviously, Andrew and I have a chance to meet with the mayor. That's when we'll really start talking about things that we're recommending pulling out potentially.
Okay.
Yeah. So is it
But-
fair to say that the requests were what, $5.2 million above and beyond what our prior year budget was? Is that what that 5.
General fund request, yeah.
I think so.
That's not including any interlocal increases.
Okay. Like
Yeah.
the mayor was just talking about Parks and Rec, P and Z,
Okay.
ambulance.
So it's a floor of 5.2 million in requests, David, above last year's budget.
And
That's
I mean,
a lot.
and there's a possibility of
Mhm.
things like the sanitation fund not being able to necessarily afford it with the revenues they've got, and therefore it becomes, if we're going to buy a truck or whatever, it may become a general fund expense. I mean, I'm just saying there's a possibility of.
And that's why I'm gonna check on their fund balance to see, if their current year budget is upside down, do they have enough in reserve to cover? Or as we've done in past, sometimes we've been able to split certain vehicle purchases across 2 fiscal years where we're able to make a down payment or pay half when we order it and we pay the rest when it gets here. We've been able to do that in the past with fire trucks.
Yeah.
Stacy, I remember the evaluation of the garbage truck leases, and I recall specifically that you did have to be careful that you bought a truck that was popular on the commercial market, but that commercial market was strong enough to where it was a very attractive lease situation. So I'm not opposed to those things at all. I think they're another way of operating.
Mhm.
If we're struggling on the gap and we've included $500,000 worth of garbage trucks, I guarantee you the first thing I'm going to look at is taking that out of the general fund and finding a different way to do it.
Yeah.
Stacy, I don't know what our cash flow situation is with sanitation, but maybe it's a situation where you wait 3 months or 4 months. If we're in a positive cash flow position, I assume that we're in a positive cash flow position, but I don't know. I don't know how significant 3 or 4 months is going to be.
mean, the last couple of budgets, I would say, for sanitation have been positive years.
Yeah.
The last couple of budget years. Like I said, it's the years where we have to buy the garbage trucks that cause the budget to flip flop. So they do have a little bit of a reserve, and I will get that number and send it to you along with the new request, so we have an idea. of
We are
what
getting
kind of
ready
cash-
to issue bids or requests for proposals or whatever you want to call it for a new place to put our garbage. Because the landfill, if the state is right and the landfill doesn't win that lawsuit, then that landfill is closing October 31st. And regardless, our contract with them and therefore our locked in tipping fee with them ends no later than December. So we could have an impact to the operational math that changes that from being in the positive to being in the negative. We hope that that's not the case, particularly with the distribution center opening, but it's math that we've got to do regardless. And we'll only be able to provisionally budget until we get those results.
Yeah, we've got a lot of moving pieces.
We sure do.
So, Finance Committee, you feel like you got what you need for today?
I feel like knowing what everybody wants. I know it's like the big picture, but I know we got some stuff to do. But it'll be good that you guys go through it first and knock out what you think we can do without, and then bring a recommendation. That'll be helpful. But I don't mind looking at the numbers and looking at their memos and kind of getting a feel of all of that as well.
Yeah. Just
And part of what, I'm sorry.
As we go through it, if you've looked through the memo, then if there's anything in there that caught your eye and we've cut it out, you can bring it to our attention.
Right. That'd be good. Yeah.
And the meetings with the departments, we've already met with the interlocal departments, so we'll be meeting with fire, police, public works. Obviously, Bruin does that, and sanitation, and Eddie in the upcoming week. A lot of what we do when we meet with them is what are your highest priorities? What's your number one priority? So that when we are looking at things to reduce, we try to give them their highest priority if we can, and what can you wait on if you
Okay.
have to.
All right. That sounds good. Anything else, David, you got?
No, I really appreciate y'all putting this together and having the meeting today. I not to dwell on what we don't have, but man, that next big revenue stream changes all this. It covers a lot of bases for us, and I know we're working in the right direction, Mayor, and I appreciate all you're doing in that regard. But it is what it is, and this budget, we're just going to have to deal with what we know, I guess. I mean, that's all we can do. So,
David, I mentioned this to Connie the other day in a phone call, and I think I want to bring it up Monday night just to give let the council know how much they've accomplished. Andrew, correct me, or Stacy, correct me if my big numbers are off here, but in our 5-year plan, we projected toward the end of that plan, we needed upwards of $8 million a year in more revenue. And that's a staggering number. But when we think about it, from what the council did last fall, once it achieves its 3-year peak, and what we did with the insurance premium tax, we've already done almost half of that $8 million. We've done $3.7 million. And I think it is important for the council to understand that what they've already accomplished, and out of a goal that seemed insurmountable, we've almost come $4 million into the process. And I think hopefully that's an encouraging message to the council.
I think it is, and it's been unanimously supported, as you pointed out several times, Mayor, which is, just a testament to the need and the awareness that you all have provided to us. And hopefully the stormwater, if I'm saying it right, stormwater management fee, hopefully that can gain the same level of support and hopefully understanding. And that'll be another piece, that'll get us, I don't know what you want to say, it'll take off the general fund, but maybe that's a $300,000 or $500,000 a year. I mean, I know that it'll generate more than that, I guess, but it might take $300,000 or $500,000 off out of the general fund.
I bet, David, it's probably more in the range of $750,000.
Okay.
And gives us bonding capacity because we can service debt to do the multi-million-dollar projects that are really required.
Mm-hmm.
We've been nibbling, and those problems really, really need a big approach to finally be able to do that.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Right. It equates the management of stormwater with the management of water and sewer in terms of its financial impact.
Exactly.
The stormwater will operate as a utility, and that is a major upgrade. And I mean, I think people often underestimate what that really means. I did. I didn't. I mean, one day it just kind of clicked to me. You're talking about treating stormwater exactly the same way you treat electricity or gas or water or sewer, because that's what it is.
Andrew, we have a franchise fee that I guess we charge the different utility providers other than gas, right? We don't do it on the gas. But
Electric, well, we do electric, we do cable, but that's it.
okay, could we do it on the recycling end? If we get something set up with Rumpke, could we have some kind of royalty or a franchise fee built into that?
We do. I left out garbage as you commercial garbage and possibly recycling, but that would whether we charge a fee or not impacts the cost of that service, of course.
I get it. I totally get it. But the way I would think it would work is they would be the ones charging the fee. And all I'm saying is maybe we've got our royalty or our fee built into their fee.
And I think we should take another look at the gas one too, David, because it's at 0.
It's a sensitive one, Connie. I don't mind to look at it, but I just recall there was a lot of sensitivity on the council to people that struggle paying their gas bills in the winter months. So it's whatever you want to do. You know, I'm glad to look at it again too.
I mean, the issue to me is the fairness of charging, for electricity, but not for gas. And I mean, I remember, you're absolutely right. It was controversial when it came up.
Yeah.
Well, trust me, electric is going to be going up after this past year and COVID.
And I also want to point out, this is actually something that Mayor, you may want to mention at some point, but it actually came up from a fellow city. They asked the question, how many of you all have, since the successful lawsuit that KLC did about cable franchises, how many of you have opted out of the state system and chosen to collect it through a franchise? And at the time, we were the only ones that did it. And Stacy pointed out to me that we doubled our revenue over the course of 1 year by doing that. We went from, what was it, Stacy, about 500,000 to
No.
No, it was $1 million to almost 2 million, right? Was
You
that
talking
right?
about cable? Oh, are you looking at totals?
Just the cable, right?
Annually, it's about 99,000 versus like 198,000.
Right. So we doubled it. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, we did double it, but yeah, it wasn't quite that.
I was off, but yeah.
Well, as you all are negotiating that with Rumpke, can you all keep that in mind? I don't.
Mhm.
And anyway,
We're going to have a meeting with Adam and some of his people. So we make sure we get a response to our RFP next time. We whiffed the first time we put it out.
Yeah. Mayor, I'm just throwing out a thought. Just came to me, but we had to hire, what was the name of the company? You're going to tell me, and I'm going to come in and pick up all the trash, which they did a good job, and it made a huge difference. But I guess if we had that fee, that royalty or fee on the recycling, whatever that generated, maybe that kind of money could go towards things like if we had to hire out cleanup days. And I don't know, just a thought, just another little stream.
Any way to be clean, any way to.
Yeah. It seems like an appropriate connection. You see what I'm saying? It seems like a good tie-in.
Yeah.
I was wondering, Andrew, because I know with our garbage franchise, obviously anybody who's placing dumpsters or hauling through Kentucky or through Georgetown has to pay our garbage franchise fee. Would that automatically apply if we had private recycling? I mean, would those trucks automatically they would automatically be subject to that garbage franchise fee, correct?
It would. I'll have to talk to Linda Ain a little bit more about how that's going to work, because I think we had contemplated the whole thing as a franchise. So, but yes, I mean, if we did nothing and we just started having them collect garbage, then arguably they're subject to that 10% franchise fee. that's on anybody who hauls waste through Georgetown.
Yeah. Yeah, and we sometimes have to police those companies, but we collect 10% franchise from these other garbage haulers that you see in Georgetown for driving on our streets and just taking advantage of our services.
Mayor, have they been asked not to drive 25 except after they get to Cherry Blossom or at exit 129?
We're supposed to go all the way to Sadieville.
Are they?
And then come back.
I passed one Wednesday. He was flying. It wasn't Georgetown though. I
Oh,
can't
it
really.
wasn't Georgetown.
No.
Yeah. Well, we can control ours, but we can't control other companies.
Yeah.
That's been the complaint of folks who live out that way. We led by example. We think between us and Lexington, they either required or shamed the landfill operator to take the interstate route from Lexington.
Well, you know, this is just a thought. Maybe a part-time DOT officer, he just sits out there and watches that. And if we put it in our traffic ordinance, that when we find those, that the police or the DOT can charge those companies large fines for being on 25. That'll keep them off of it. And it'll pay that DOT's income.
Just a couple of times might get their attention.
Just, you know, that's just a thought.
We might have a problem stopping somebody from driving on a federal highway, unfortunately.
Not big trucks. I mean, you say no through trucks, no downtown.
Yeah, but we can do certain things like that, but when it comes to federal highways, I think we might lose that battle.
It's not any different from the big trucks getting on 25 to pass up the way stations and they get fined. Either one is a highway, federal highway.
That's true.
So all we're doing is saying we've asked you to go to exit 136 and come back up because you're less likely to be on 25, where there's a lot of congestion right there at 129. And there's going to be more. Would that not be a fair statement, Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just a thought, you know, because when he passed me, he was flying. And I was like, wow. But anyway, it's just something. We got too many other things on our plate.
Those big trucks are intimidating when they're that fast.
Yeah.
Okay. On our next meeting, and it's on a Friday morning at 9:30. I can be on the call for about the first 30 minutes. I made a really firm commitment to Chase when he finally got to the point of taking the South Sewer Line project to his board, that I would be there. And his board is meeting in special called meeting at 10 o'clock on the 23rd. So
Do we need to adjust the time of the next meeting? I mean, we can public notice it and change the time.
do it
I
earlier.
come down earlier. You want to do earlier, Mayor?
That would
David,
work.
can you?
I gotta be.
Be like 8:30 or 8 or.
That would
There's
work.
also the increasingly strong probability that that meeting gets moved. After our conversation with KIA today, our timeline just got completely just got torn to shreds. But he may still want to keep that meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
So the
Well,
time
we can make ours earlier if need to. We can wait until a couple days before to decide for sure.
Okay, I just wanted to mention that, and
What were you asking? I'm sorry.
Well, let's settle on time in case you do have to do that, Stacy, then, because I've already got it down in my phone.
8:30 be fine.
Okay.
That-
You good with that, David?
Regardless.
Good.
Okay. In case you have to change it, there you go.
Great.
Okay.
That'll
Anything
work.
else?
That's enough for me. It's a pretty Friday afternoon.
I know. So it's a wrap for me if it is for you guys.
You all need anything else from us?
No, everything that you presented us today is just something I'd like to study and read over their memorandums. But if you all are going to, in the next couple of weeks, give us a scale down of, meeting everybody and find out what's your number one is good. But I'd just like to put some thought in it. If you just sent me the numbers, just some thought into it and think about it, what's been presented to see if maybe we might be on the same page or they would be.
So did we say the 27th? Is that what we said?
23rd.
23rd. That's what I have. Okay.
So don't be a hater, but I'm just going to tell you all, I'd rather be early than late because I'm flying out that night to Fort Myer. I know.
We can just move it, like you said, we can just move it to 8:30 no matter what if you want.
Let's just go ahead and do that.
No, I'm not leaving until later on that evening.
Oh, okay. You might need to pack.
I just wanted to throw that out.
I'm good for you. Have fun.
I intend to.
You fully intend to. Good for you.
All right, then.
Well,
Okay.
guys,
Do you need anything else, David?
No. Mary, you all good?
we're all good.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate
Thank you all.
everything you guys do.
Thanks, Andrew.
There's a
Thank you all.
big chunk of time. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye, everybody.
All right.